Welcome to today's deep dive. Have you ever noticed that when we picture a dangerous weapon, we usually think of like bombs or viruses?
Right, something physical.
Exactly. We don't typically picture someone fighting fiercely for what they believe is right. But looking at human history, the worst atrocities, the Crusades, the Inquisitions, they happened not because people were acting evil, but because they were completely convinced they were acting morally. So today's mission is exploring a deeply provocative idea: why humanity's sense of right and wrong might actually be our most dangerous weapon.
Yeah, and we're looking at a really fascinating book today called The Morality Trap by philosopher Boris Kriger. And he basically argues that to understand why morality is so destructive, we first have to accept that it's essentially, well, a subjective cultural illusion.
Okay, let's unpack this because, calling morality an illusion is a pretty bold claim.
It is a massive claim. But Kriger makes this crucial distinction between rigid morality, all those cultural codes, rules, and judgments, and what he calls the quiet good.
The quiet good.
Right. The quiet good is just natural, unforced compassion.
Mm.
And what's fascinating here is his example of Washoe the chimpanzee. So Washoe once saw another chimp drowning in a water-filled moat and just instantly reached out to pull him to safety.
Wow.
Yeah, she didn't consult a religious text or like the moral commandment. She acted on pure biological instinct to help.
So the drive to help is innate, almost like our biological need to eat, but morality is more like the rigid cultural etiquette telling us which fork to use.
That's a great way to put it.
I can see that, but I do have a hard time buying that morality is entirely a cultural illusion. When I witness a blatant injustice, I don't just politely disagree with it in my head. I feel it in my stomach. It feels objectively, physically wrong. How can an illusion cause a literal punch to the gut?
Well, that physical reaction is exactly how our biology plays tricks on us. Krieger points to neuroscientists like Antonio Damasio here.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so when you witness something your specific culture deems unjust, your brain triggers a stress response. It literally dumps hormones like cortisol into your system.
Which creates that real feeling of threat.
Exactly, or a deep disgust in your stomach.
Oh, so my brain interprets that physical discomfort not as just a cultural opinion, but as like an undeniable physical alarm bell that some universal law has been broken.
Precisely. Biology basically tricks us into feeling that our subjective values are absolute laws of the universe. And because you physically feel that you're objectively right, you naturally try to force others to comply with your rules.
Which actually defeats the whole purpose of being good. Like, if I force someone to act virtuous under the threat of punishment, they aren't actually being good.
No, they're really not.
They're just trying to survive me. And here's where it gets really interesting. This biological trick completely explains why our moral debates always feel so useless.
Yeah, if we connect this to the bigger picture, debating across incompatible moral systems is structurally futile. Kriger uses the abortion debate to illustrate this, and it's critical we look at this impartially.
Right, because if you look at both sides impartially, their logic is practically bulletproof once you accept their starting point. Exactly.
Like, if you believe protecting fetal life is the ultimate priority, your stance makes total sense. And if you believe bodily autonomy is the ultimate priority, your stance makes equal sense.
That is the absolute core of it. You just can't debate your way across that gap because you aren't even playing the same game. The two sides assign completely different weights to different fundamental values.
And when we try to force an impossible moral victory, things get dangerous.
Very dangerous.
That's exactly how we get from Washoe the chimp naturally saving a life to a historical crusader burning down a village to save their souls. The crusader let an abstract moral rule overwrite their natural quiet good.
Right.
So what does this all mean? If moral arguments are impossible to win and forcing them causes atrocities, what actually takes priority?
This raises an important question, and Krieger's answer is really clear. He says life, dignity, and human well-being have to stand above morality.
Above it.
Yes. Whenever an abstract rule demands the sacrifice of human welfare, it has basically failed. We see this in medicine a lot.
Like the tragic case of Savita Halappanavar, who died from sepsis because strict moral laws prevented doctors from terminating a non-viable pregnancy.
God, that's awful. And we saw a version of this conflict with the societal fractures caused by COVID-19 vaccine mandates, too.
No, for sure.
Because mandates were morally justified as protecting public health, but resisting them was morally justified as protecting bodily autonomy. We're obviously not endorsing either side, just pointing out the clash.
Exactly. When we prioritize an abstract moral rule over actual human welfare, the system just breaks down.
Yeah, it does.
And Boris Krieger's ultimate takeaway isn't nihilism here. He isn't saying nothing matters. He's saying our obsession with being morally right gets in the way of actually being good.
Right, it's about stripping away all that heavy baggage of moral judgment and returning to the quiet good, just helping someone simply because they're suffering.
Yeah.
It leaves you with a thought to mull over today. If you stopped filtering your choices through the rigid lens of what is morally correct and simply asked what reduces suffering, how would your interactions change?